Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, run while you still can. Today I'll be reviewing the Sigma 15mm F1.4 contemporary lens. It's part of their contemporary line refresh, and I actually have the original that it's replacing, the 16mm DCDN lens. Now those of you who were invested in the Canon EFM system probably recognize as one of the lenses that actually saved that ecosystem until Canon completely canned it in favor of the RFS and the RF line, thinking that for some reason, someone spending $400 on a lens was also going to drop $3,500 on a premium, but that's a discussion for another time. I've reviewed two other contemporary lenses, the 1018 and the 12mm f1.4, both of which I also own, and I'll put links to those above. Hey guys, Future Omar here, doing the edit on this right now. I actually forgot that the 1850 was part of the contemporary line, and that's actually one of their better lenses. It's an 1850 f2.8, consistent all the way through. Did a video on it. I'll toss up a link for you to check that out as well. But yeah, so we're three lenses in right now, if you want to check it out. But for this one today, I feel like I wanted to kind of break the mold a little bit and slightly failed in that I wanted to have a different type of lens review, because at this point in time, I think you know that if Sigma's going to release a lens, it's going to be decently sharp, price is going to be great, autofocus is going to be pretty decent, so on and so forth. So what I did was actually use it on a short video that I'm working on right now about Boston Market and how private equity gutted and bankrupted the company. For those of you who are not in the United States, Boston Market was one of the first fast casual restaurants, similar to Chipotle, where you could go in and buy a rotisserie chicken even through a drive-through, along with whatever other comfort foods there are. It sounds very odd saying that out loud, but it was a good time. It was a good time. It was reasonably priced, and it was a relatively healthy alternative to a lot of the things that we have nowadays for fast food, particularly for fast casual and their ever-shrinking portions like Chipotle. I'll toss up a link to that video when it's done in the comments below. That's just me stretching my creative feet a little bit. Ooh, birds. Now you can see how small this lens is, especially compared to the original, and the weight difference is actually pretty substantial as well. I'll toss up the numbers on screen right now. I don't know what the gram difference is, but I can tell you right now, this one, heavy, 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 light, light, light. That's how I kind of weigh out my lens options. And because this is a small and light lens, I felt pretty comfortable mounting it to the Fujifilm X-M5, which is typically my YouTube camera, but today, since I'm talking about it with this lens, we are on the PowerShot V1. You'll see in some of the B-roll that I overlay here, I was actually able to mount this onto a DJI RS4 Mini Pro and put it up into the air a couple of feet over my head using a little monopod-like extension made by Manfrotto specifically for gimbals, so I felt a little more confident launching it into the stratosphere with that. And it's a pretty light payload, so I was able to maneuver very easily, and it looks like we got some shade. I was able to maneuver pretty easily to capture a lot of the establishing shots for that video. Being there was kind of like looking at a corpse, because it's pretty clear that the building has been abandoned for a good 10 years or so, despite the fact it still has a for rent sign there. And this location in particular even had a drive-through, which wasn't super common across the US. It was kind of like a last-ditch effort for them to try to differentiate the brand from all the new competitors that were popping up at the time. A package this small, with image quality that I've come to expect from Sigma at this point, made it a pretty easy recording session, because technically I'm not 100% sure if I'm allowed on that lot or not, but it was, easy to jump in and get out real quick. And I want to start off by saying that, yes, photographers are probably going to end up using this as well. I personally don't like wide photos unless I'm doing panoramic stitches, but ironically enough, I love wide lenses for video, like we're doing right now here, because it allows me to get really close to the camera, and sometimes that's the action depending on what it is that I'm filming at the time. Like many of the other new contemporary lenses, or the refreshed ones at least, this one has weather sealing, and it's really good weather sealing. I think the only one that doesn't have weather sealing across the line now is that 1018, which is an original as well. There was never like a Mark 1 1018. And you can tell by the gasket here, oop, that's a lot of pollen. You can see the gasket right here. And Sigma themselves, they said that it's got robust weather sealing. They made sure to go out of their way to upgrade it compared to what the Mark 1s had, the 16mm here, which is still weather sealed, or weather resistant really is a more accurate term. but it's just not as much. It still has the gasket in the back. Plus, I'm sure they've got a bunch of little doodads hiding in the focus motors and all the gaps with the focus rings and everything throughout the lens. I don't know. I'm not a lens engineer. If you are, let me know. But that's pretty much the designation I got from the company themselves when I asked them about it. And that's my alarm. Hate it when the job gets in the way of doing YouTube videos. We'll continue this shortly. Hey guys, we're going to do that thing where we pretend I'm recording the rest of this on the same day. So just ignore any of the differences there, including this guy. Got a little work to do after work. And let's go back to talking about the differences between the Sigma 16mm DCDN and the updated 15mm F1.4 contemporary lens that is effectively its replacement. Even though they're selling both of them at the same time, I'm pretty sure they're just trying to get rid of whatever stock is left of the 16mm. Top of mind, first thing that comes in place, don't exactly remember where we left off, was the size. I know I mentioned the size before, and the size is a pretty big part of this because it's significantly smaller than the old 16mm, but on top of being smaller, it lends itself to being considerably more balanced on the smaller bodies like the Fujifilm XM5 and the XT30 and potentially even the XS20, but that one has a really good grip on it, so maybe it won't matter as much. Like this thing here, I've got a hand grip on it, a small rig hand grip that helps substantially, but it's still comfortable to use without it. This just makes mounting it to a gimbal a lot easier. The other thing, as a Fujifilm shooter, which I'm sure we all really appreciate, I'm pretty sure the Sony E-mount version of this also has this, and the Canon RFS mount, this is a control ring. I don't know if they have aperture blade markers for it, but if I can hide my face long enough. So we have our aperture values here in a really nice clicky wheel, and you can go all the way here to the A for automatic if you wanted to, if you have like shutter priority mode or something, or if you want to use the body controls, which, you know, valid, but also a little weird if you have the option for it, in my opinion. The focus clutch is also really good. It has a decent amount of resistance, which at a 22.5-ish full frame focal length, you are going to be racking focus every now and then, so it is important to have a decent manual focus clutch. And typically when I'm shooting on gimbals or a lot of other scenarios, I do lock focus, unlike here, which maybe every now and then it might benefit from it. Fuji's autofocus is getting better, and you can tell because the third-party lenses like Sigma are doing pretty well these days. You got a 58mm filter thread on the new 15mm F1.4, while the older one had really kind of an egregiously large 67mm filter thread. What that means is that if you're a newer shooter and you're looking for like your first real lens purchase and you're considering these, that investing in a filter thread for ND filters for videos like this won't be as expensive as it is on something like this. Same goes with the ProMist filters and everything else. 67mm isn't out of the stratosphere, but once you get above 72mm on those filter threads, the costs really do start to add up pretty quickly. Now, I did take a couple of sample photos with this thing, and personally I'm not a big fan of wide-angle photos, but this one gives you just a slightly wider field of view as a standard wide, which is 24mm in the full-frame world. What that means is that you still get an expanded ultra-wide view, but without all the distortion that you would normally deal with something like this, which I just realized I wasn't recording on last time. That was the Canon last time. This is the Sigma 12mm on the Fujifilm X-H2S. And actually, this is probably going to be a good example. So center frame here, everything looks relatively normal. But as I approach the corner, you see how it's pulling my head that way? That's called perspective distortion because it's wider than your eye would normally see. And so going out, you can get some really ridiculous portions if you position yourself in a really weird way. But also you can position yourself in the center and then it looks like you lost 20 pounds. So that's the advantage of using something ultra wide. Jokes aside though, in a lot of productions, an ultra wide field of view isn't typically something you use. They're used sparingly. But in really tight shots, like in cars, which I've overlaid, if I haven't overlaid that shot yet, I will right now, you can see how it gives you a relatively normal field of view without distorting everything and gives you a lot of headspace without making a 2014 Toyota Prius C seem like you're in a minivan. Of course, I did take a couple of image samples with this, and it's about what you would expect. Lens is sharp when it's wide open, a little soft in the corners. Stop it up to f2.8, f4, it gets a little sharper. Shoot straight into the sun, you're going to get some chromatic aberration and fringing. shoot away from the sun with it behind you, it's going to look really good. Can't really see any fringing, maybe wide open, you're dealing with some loco or something, etc., etc. Really fine technical details that for the majority of people doesn't really make that big of a difference. I'd say especially those who are looking into purchasing these lenses. These are traits that you're going to find on even high-end glass that's really fast. Companies can only do so much with the limitations of physics and glass and light and everything, along with digital corrections and whatnot, which is probably how you got this kind of size over this one here. But the two traits I do want to pull out is that it has very, very, very well-controlled lens flares and ghosting, which I think that's really important because a lot of the cheaper lenses aren't, and that's something that gets really frustrating on a bright sunny day like today, where you have to slap on a 3-stop ND filter on top of a 5-stop variable ND just so you're exposed somewhat properly. Although we're going to be dealing with those raccoon eyes today, aren't we? So the question comes up, as it always does, who is this lens for? The lens is going to be for someone who wants a cheap, fast, wide prime. If you take wide-angle photos, this will be right up your alley, but I think for video shooters, especially those who do a lot of gimbal work or are aiming to do a lot of gimbal work, this is a really small footprint, really high-quality lens that you can toss onto a gimbal and balance with these, and it won't be eating up that battery all day trying to fix balance on the gimbal. You're not going to be fighting it as much as something like this, which again is both twice the size and weight of the 15mm that's replacing it, and it just makes for an overall better shooting experience. Now, if you already own the 16mm, is the 15mm worthwhile? Hard to say. If you're happy using the 16mm, it's going to be a hard sell to upgrade to the 15mm. If you find yourself outdoors a little more often, again, according to Sigma, the weather sealing is more robust on this one, which, I mean, they're definitely going to say that because they're trying to get you to buy that lens. But you're also talking about a decade in technology development and lens experience on their end, so I would not doubt it at all. Also, we're in the middle of a heat wave in Jersey for some reason in May, so go ahead and toss me a like and subscribe on this video and ask me any questions you have on this lens or any other in the comments below. I'll tell you what we're going to do for the remainder of this video. I'm going to slap on an ND on this thing and we're going to wrap up so you can see what it looks like using this as a talking head over... I want to toss this guy on. So you can see what it looks like using this as a talking head lens versus the 12mm, which I, again, do not foresee ever being replaced as my main YouTube lens unless I get like a really big desk or something, because I'm right here. I'm like literally right here. It's just nice to have a really fast wide lens like this and an 18mm full frame field of view, but let's not get distracted right now. This is with 5 stops of ND. I wanted to see if maybe we could see the background separation, considering I'm pressed up against the wall, but it's way too overexposed. So let's go ahead and take that up to maybe f2.8, 3.2. Too much? Nope. Let's try 2.8. And I pulled myself out of focus. Lovely. There we go. So this gives you a better idea of what the frame of view is. Let me move the camera back just a hair, so I'm not totally cut off. And compared to the 12mm right here that I was recording myself on prior, you can tell that I'm less distorted, significantly so. The corner distortion isn't anywhere near as egregious as it was there. And also those 20 pounds I said you lose when shooting yourself with an ultra wide are clearly back. So that's the only downside, I'd say. Overall, I think this is a solid lens for anyone who needs, again, just a really light setup on a small camera, be it this, although it complements the XH2S very well as well. Obviously, if you're shooting this on a Sony camera or a Canon camera, it's going to be fine too, but anytime they release a lens that has an aperture ring, I know they're thinking of Fuji shooters, at least the engineers are when they're putting it together. One other thing I forgot to mention for anyone who has a 16mm is that every millimeter on the wide end is pretty significant, and you can see that here. This lens is only 3mm wider than the one that's on the camera now, but I had to even move it back to get this field of view. So if you find yourself just a little too tight, you're often just a little too tight using the 16mm, the 15mm might be a solution for you. And if you go to any reputable camera store, they probably have a display. Like I go to Unique Photo in Fairfield in Jersey. You can pop it on your camera and see if that is worth the investment for you, because sometimes just having something that works the way you want it to is going to be a better solution than trying to compensate accordingly. Like for me, that would probably be, this is way at the edge. Let me get my phone out. So right now, for example, my head is barely clearing the camera up top here, and I don't really have any space left to move this tripod back. So for me, for example, and this is actually why I love the 12mm, the alternative, the solution to fixing a field of view problem where my head is cut off or something is I would have to get a tripod and have it mounted on the floor, which is infinitely more annoying than having a tabletop setup. So really think about your use case before parting ways with your money. I do feel a little nostalgic holding this guy because when I had my Canon M50 Mark I, these lenses were great, and this is the only wide lens that was really decent. They had, I think it was an 11 to 18, something like that. That was their only wide lens, and it was really slow. So when the 16-1.4 came out, it was a game changer for everyone on that system because suddenly we had all these crazy 1.4 aperture lenses on these tiny little Canon M50s that, of course, Canon killed because we can't have anything nice. That's all I've got for today's video before I start ranting. So go ahead, hit those like and subscribe buttons. If you have any questions, definitely drop them in the comments below. And as always, where's the cover? I'll catch you at the next one. See ya.